I wasn't even supposed to be there. Kyle had been trying to get me and Connor to go hunting with him for years, and we always brushed him off. Not because we hated the idea, but because we knew we'd be useless. Kyle knew what he was doing out there. We didn't. What finally changed our minds wasn't hunting. It was the idea of a weekend away, mountains, fire, drinks. That part sounded good enough to ignore everything else. We left before sunrise on Friday and drove deep into the mountains. Kyle seemed familiar with the area, barely checking directions. After a while, we turned onto a narrow dirt road and parked near what looked like an old logging path. The hike in was worse than expected. Kyle kept saying almost there, but it never felt like it. My shoulders were already sore, and Connor was lagging behind, complaining under his breath. Eventually, we reached a small clearing near a creek. That's where Kyle wanted to camp. He handled most of the setup. Connor and I mostly got in the way, pretending to help while he worked around us. By nightfall, everything actually felt worth it. Fire going, beers open, just sitting there talking. The quiet felt different out there, not empty, just still. Then something screamed. It came from deep in the woods, a long, sharp scream that didn't sound like any animal I'd ever heard. Everything stopped. Connor laughed first, said it sounded like someone getting attacked. Kyle didn't laugh. He leaned forward slightly, listening, then said it could be a fox, said they can sound like that. I didn't believe it, but I didn't argue either. We tried to keep talking, but it wasn't the same. There were pauses now, moments where all three of us just listened. Then it came again, closer. Not deep in the woods anymore. It sounded like it was just outside the firelight. Connor stood up and called out, asking if someone needed help. The second he did it, I felt like that was a mistake. Nothing answered, not even movement. Kyle stared into the dark for a few seconds, then told us to put the fire out. His tone changed, more serious. We didn't question it. Within minutes, we were in our tents. I barely slept. Every sound felt like it meant something. Leaves shifting, faint cracks, things that might have been normal, but didn't feel that way. Morning came slow. When I stepped out of the tent, something was off right away. Our chairs were knocked over. One of the coolers had been pushed onto its side. A bag of snacks was torn open and dragged a short distance. Kyle's backpack wasn't where he left it. He came out, looked around, and said it was probably a bear. It made sense, but something about it didn't line up. There wasn't much missing. Things were just moved. Still, none of us pushed it further. Kyle said we should move camp, blamed the bear, and said it'd also get us closer to a better hunting spot. We packed up and went deeper in. The second spot felt different immediately. The trees were thicker, closer together. It felt more closed in, like sound didn't carry the same way. We spent most of the day hunting. Kyle showed us what to look for, where to sit, how to stay quiet. Late in the afternoon, he got a deer. It happened fast. One shot, then he called for us. Seeing it up close felt different than I expected. It wasn't just an animal anymore. It felt heavier than that. Dragging it back to camp was exhausting. Watching Kyle cut into it was worse. The smell stuck in the air even after he finished. Connor tried to act interested. I mostly looked away.
That night we cooked some of it. No one said much. It wasn't like the first night. Then the screaming started again, far away at first. We all recognized it instantly. No one tried to explain it this time. A few minutes later it came again, closer. Same exact sound, same way it cut off at the end. Kyle stood up and grabbed his rifle. I could tell he was tense now. Then, Out of nowhere, he fired a couple shots into the air and started yelling into the woods. Loud, aggressive, like he was trying to push something away. Connor and I laughed for a second. It felt sudden, almost stupid. Then the scream came again, right outside the camp, close enough that it felt like it was circling just beyond the light. Kyle stopped immediately. None of us said anything. We just put the fire out. Darkness took over instantly, the kind where you can't see anything beyond a few feet. We got into the tents again. I stayed awake, listening. Leaves shifting, small cracks, something moving but never long enough to track. Then it started running, fast. It moved through the campsite, circling the tents. I heard it pass right next to me. Something dragged along the side of my tent, a rough scraping sound that didn't stop until it moved past. I didn't move. I didn't speak. Then it stopped, completely. That silence lasted longer than anything before it. Then the scream came again, right in the middle of the camp. It didn't sound human anymore, not in a normal way. Connor yelled. I did too, without meaning to. Kyle fired a shot straight up from inside his tent. Right after that, whatever it was ran, fast, loud, crashing through the trees until the sound faded completely. Then nothing. Kyle told us to get into his tent. We didn't argue. We sat there for hours, rifles nearby, flashlights in hand, barely talking. At one point, Connor asked what that was. Kyle didn't try to explain it this time. He just said he didn't know. Eventually, we all drifted off. Morning came, and again, things were off. Not destroyed, moved. A crushed beer can near the fire. A container pushed a few feet. Small things, but enough. Same pattern as before. We packed up without even discussing staying. The hike back felt shorter, maybe because we didn't stop, maybe because we just wanted out. We talked more as we got closer to the truck, like moving made it feel safer. By the time we were driving, the tension turned into that weird laughter people get after something stressful. Connor started mocking Kyle, yelling and pretending to fire into the air. Even Kyle laughed. We talked about reporting it. We didn't. Kyle said if it had been a real person, they would have answered when we called out. That logic stuck. It was the easiest way to explain it. But later that night, I had a dream. I was back there, alone. There was a woman standing between the trees, covered in blood, screaming for help. She was looking straight at me, and I didn't move. I just stood there while she kept screaming. I woke up sitting on the edge of my bed, breathing hard. What stuck with me wasn't the sound. It was the fact that both nights, when we asked if anyone needed help, whatever was out there stayed silent.